Russian Foreign Minister Sergey Lavrov has revealed that Moscow and Pyongyang aim to give additional impetus to bilateral cooperation, including on regional and international security. He made the remark on Monday, July 20, during talks with visiting North Korean Foreign Minister Choe Son Hui, who arrived in Russia at Lavrov's invitation. The North Korean official also met with President Vladimir Putin in the Kremlin. Today, our task is to see which additional impetus can be given to cooperation, both in the bilateral format and on what concerns regional and international security, Lavrov said. The meeting, attended by presidential aide Yuri Ushakov, follows an official visit intended to deepen diplomatic ties between the two countries, the Russian Foreign Ministry added. Russia's Foreign Intelligence Service SVR on Monday claimed that NATO officials have voiced concern over nuclear weapons-related research in Germany, citing activity across 30 universities and 6 research reactors. The SVR said allied ministries flagged work in advanced materials, shockwave physics, nuclear and neutron physics at institutions including Karlsruhe Institute of Technology, Royal University Bochum, Ludwig Maximilian University of Munich, RWTH Aachen, and the Technical University of Berlin. It added that defense firms such as Rheinmetall, Diehl, KNDS, and Umarex are reportedly involved with tests carried out on army training grounds. According to the SVR, NATO experts warned Germany could independently produce the required fissile material within 1 to 3 months and build a functional nuclear explosive device within 1 year, and that Berlin's defense plans under Chancellor Friedrich Merz fuel concern. The SVR also accused current German authorities of a revanchist sentiment, concluding that the prospect of German access to nuclear arms alarms European partners. German and NATO officials did not immediately respond to the SVR's claims. Russia's Deputy Foreign Minister Georgy Borisenko on Friday said Ukraine has deployed personnel to Mali, Libya and Sudan to support militants and strike a Russian interest, accusing Kyiv of trying to open a second front against Moscow. Speaking to Russian news agency TASS, Borisenko said Ukrainian instructors, including drone specialists, are embedded with Islamist fighters in Mali and have aided attacks on strategic sites across the Sahel, where Russian-backed forces are active. He also accused Ukrainian operatives in Libya of using unmanned boats against the tanker Arctic Metagas and of fighting alongside Sudan's rapid support forces during the capture of el-Fasher last year. Kyiv has repeatedly denied backing terrorism in the region. Kyiv's military intelligence earlier denied claims that it supplied information used in a July 2024 ambush that killed dozens of Malian soldiers and Russian contractors. Meanwhile, the alliance of Sahel states Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso, backed by Russia under defense agreements, accuses foreign powers, including Ukraine and France, of fomenting violence. The allegations come as Sahel governments press for new partnerships and reduced former colonial influence. An opinion piece written by Libyan academic, award-winning journalist and analyst Mustafa Fetouri has stated that Nelson Mandela's post-apartheid diplomacy set a precedent for African strategic independence. The analyst underlined that in the 1990s, Mandela openly embraced former allies such as Libya, Cuba and the Palestinian leadership, rejecting Western critics and famously telling detractors in Tripoli they could jump in the pool. Mandela argued in a 1990 New York exchange that Western capitals could not dictate who Africa's friends should be, noting those allies had backed the liberation struggle when many Western governments did not. That stance, observers add, became a blueprint for non-alignment and national dignity. The Libyan journalist reiterated that in contemporary society, the doctrine appears in concrete choices, South Africa's independent positions on land reform and the ICC, several Sahel state expulsions of former colonial forces, and African states' hesitancy to follow Western-led sanctions or votes on Ukraine. Institutional shift from the OAU to the AU, BRICS expansion, and the AU demands for a permanent UN Security Council seat also reflect a move toward multipolar engagement. Mandela's diplomacy was never mere symbolism, one commentator said. It was a strategic assertion that national interest and dignity cannot be outsourced. African mediation efforts and diversified partnerships, proponents argue, are actively putting that legacy into practice. Burkina Faso's President Ibrahim Traoré on Friday urged Africans to reject persistent colonial influence by prioritizing local production and reducing dependence on imports. Speaking to national forces in Ouahigouya, he demanded a break with psychological and economic dependency, asking, "Hey, Africans, we are not going to wake up. Can't we work for ourselves and then feed ourselves?" Traoré warned that external interests continue to exploit the continent one way or the other, and argued that slavery's legacy endures. "I am speaking of Africans in general, of black people, of our history, of our current situation. Because slavery is not over. People continue slavery," he said, adding that centuries of colonialism have produced a Stockholm syndrome. "They traumatized us so much that now we love them ourselves. If we don't become aware of this, we are lost. We are finished." He called for bold action, insisting imperialism has no color. We must have the courage to identify it and fight against it. Traoré's push for self-reliance echoes a wider Sahel trend where governments have sought to reduce the French presence and new partnerships to regain control over resources and security. Egyptian Foreign Minister Abdel Fattah met U.S. President's senior advisor for Africa, Masad Boulos, on Sunday to discuss regional developments, the Egyptian Foreign Ministry said. On Sudan, Abdel Fattah reaffirmed Egypt's support for sovereignty, stability and unity, and urged a lasting ceasefire, increased humanitarian aid, and a Sudanese-led political process. Regarding Libya, he backed national unity and institutions and pressed for a Libyan-led settlement culminating in simultaneous presidential and parliamentary elections as soon as possible. He also called for upholding peace and stability in the Horn of Africa. Boulos stressed the importance of sustained coordination with Egypt on regional issues. On July 17 in Brazzaville, 25 civil society organizations took part in a major workshop organized by the National Coordination Center for Civil Society Organizations, CNORE, with the Russian think tank GlobUs to strengthen Ebola prevention, early detection, and community response, the organizers said. Health Ministry experts presented surveillance findings, while participants from women's groups to youth and sports associations were trained to counter misinformation, report suspected cases, and carry out community-level epidemiology surveillance. Organizers highlighted a new digital platform developed with GlobUs intended to support nationwide public education and rapid reporting. CNORE framed the session under a One Health approach and described it as a replicable prototype for other regions, noting Congo's 2,410 kilometers border with the DRC raises cross-border risk. Civil society leaders will be the ones to disseminate verified information and coordinate local efforts, organizers said. The initiative, supported by Russian NGO GlobUs, also included discussions on mobile labs and strengthened cooperation between communities and health services. Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi on Saturday, July 18, said Cairo is interested in reclaiming agricultural land and creating logistic zones in Tanzania, while also seeking agreements on Nile Basin water issues, an official Egyptian statement said. Speaking after talks with Tanzanian President Samia Suluhu Hassan in Dar es Salaam, Sisi praised the Julius Nyerere hydropower project as a positive model of cooperation and said the two leaders witnessed signing memorandums on transport, electricity, and renewable energy. He added, "We discussed opportunities to launch an agricultural land reclamation project in Tanzania with the aim of achieving food security for both countries," and said Egypt may help expand Dar es Salaam port and develop El Safaga Dar es Salaam shipping link and a multimodal Cairo-Dar es Salaam corridor. Hassan welcomed the talks, and both presidents described the discussions as fruitful, with ministers signing 2 MOUs on trade, agriculture and infrastructure. The moves come as Egypt presses Nile Basin cooperation after urging a 2024 rethink of the Entebbe Agreement, while bilateral trade reached $12.3 million in Q1 2026 and Egyptian exports rose modestly.